Welcome back, class. I want to spend some time with you on the template. I have my template up so that you can see some of the changes that I've made and to give you some pointers on how to correct some of the information that's already in so that it matches your new funding amounts and to start building your programs. So make sure that you have watched the slide set beforehand because I give you additional pointers as well. So as you can see, I have some names already in my template. This is the agency budget worksheet, and you can see that I have my 5 programs: case management, HIV treatment, HIV testing, HIV prevention, and transportation as my individual programs. So the goal is to build out each one of these programs so that the agency budget worksheet actually reflects the numbers from all of your programs so that you actually have your main budget for your organization. So at the top, I've actually just hidden, and you can hide them or not hide them, the first 6 cells that have some of the information that puts the space and the fringe and some of the other calculations in the cells. So I did that just to make it easier. And if you want to do it, just highlight those cells and click hide, and it will actually hide those. So then we would have the same number starting with cell number 7, and it'll just make it easier for you. Remember, this is here so that you can come back and reference it at any time, and hopefully by doing this you'll be able to walk yourself through. Don't get frustrated. I know that Excel, especially if you've not used Excel before, can be very frustrating. Especially since if you're learning to do your budget and do the cells at the same time, it might be a little bit overwhelming. But take your time, because the purpose of this class is for you to really learn how to do this so that you can practice both budgeting itself and also working in Excel or some other program, but we're going to be using Excel today. So you can see that I've changed the executive director's name to myself. This first page is the agency budget. There are various sponsors. All of you got your NOGAs, and we'll have CDC, HRSA, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and your organization's own money, and then the budget dates, as you can see. Now I went through on each sheet, as you can see, and did the same thing, also putting in the sponsor that was in my NOGA and the amount here in C12. You can see that I've got $225,000 for case management. And I've done that for each one of these programs, as you can see. So once I did that, I came down to the main spreadsheet, and you're going to see, let's look at title first, so my C column. Each program, as your NOGA said, is assumptions and conditions. You must have an executive director, a program director, a data manager, and a secretary. So I put those 4 titles in immediately into my agency budget. Then I went through each one of the conditions for all my other programs and put the assumptions in. So for example, my case management program, I can have up to 2.5 full-time equivalents. And remember to look at that on the slides if you haven't. So for 2.5 full-time equivalents, I decided that I was just going to put 2 case manager positions. I'm not sure if I'll have 2 full-time case managers. A lot of it depends on the amount of money I have and what other expenses I have. But to start with, I decided to put in 2 case managers, one of them being named the case management coordinator, whose salary then obviously will be a little bit more than the other person. The second program I have is my HIV treatment services program. So I have $445,000 for that program. So I decided that I would try to build out a full complement of services, even though they won't all be full-time, but that I would go ahead and start with 5 full-time equivalent positions, even though they may not be completely full-time. Physician, nurse practitioner, a nurse, and 2 certified medical assistants who would make appointments and do all of the prep work. So those are my 5 right here. These are my 5 positions for my HIV treatment services. And then it got a little tricky after that, because for my HIV testing I had $125,000, as you can see on this sheet. And the condition that I only have no more than 1 full-time equivalent position. So for that, I will only be able to have an HIV counselor and tester, and that program will be limited to HIV counseling and testing. And then I have my HIV prevention money, which comes from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. I got $50,000. So I'm going to have a half-time outreach worker because the NOGA said I could have up to a half-time worker or 0.5 FTE, full-time equivalent. And then finally, my transportation program, which also is $50,000. I can have a half-time worker, and you can kind of see here I put it in, and I'll show you that in a minute. But I put that under the last title. So to make sure that all of the costs from all of the sheets after my agency budget worksheet correspond to this first sheet so that I can make this my master, I've put in all the titles of all the positions that I'm going to need to fill individually from each one of the agency budgets. And then I put some names up here just as a way to be a placeholder for myself. But underneath that, you'll see that I put to be determined or to be announced, so TBD or TBA for everyone else, so it's not necessary for you to actually name all of those. And then finally, there are some positions here that are open at the bottom. I've left those in case I want to build out any other programs. Now, some of you have, many of you have different programs, obviously, and you're going to have to decide what title you're going to need to name for each of the positions for the programs you have. And in order to do that, most of you will either need to go onto the internet and search for other programs that are like yours, talk to the individuals from the organizations that you have picked as the ones that you're kind of looking at, their budget policies and procedures, etc. Some of you have been very good about reaching out to those people. Others of you might not have thought that you can actually call them, call a friend, get the copy of a budget from someone so that you can actually look at the positions they have. And of course, you can look at mine here as an example of how I'm building out my programs. So this is our actual first step in our budgeting process, is to figure out what kind of positions we need in order to fill out each one of our programs. And as you can see, I've actually linked all of those pages to the first one, as you can see here. And let me go to the transportation page. So I haven't done that here yet on this side, so let me quickly show you how to do that. If you click on your agency, click on all of the positions that you want to, or the personnel names. You can do this with any of these columns. Not any of these columns, because these columns over here obviously have formulas in them, and we want to leave those alone. But over here, let's just click from 16 down to 29. I'm going to right-click and copy, and then I'm going to go to my transportation page, and I'm going to do the same ones. And I'm going to right-click, and then I'm going to click this button at the end that says link. And as you can see, it's already changing those. So click on link, and it's put those in. Now let's go back to where it says agency budget, and let's type in to be named for all of these. And let's bring this down. Oops. If you drag this down, it's going to copy that cell for each one. And now if you look on each one of these worksheets, because I already linked the other ones, I just showed you how to link the last one. Whatever changes I make in the personnel names and the personnel titles on the first page will change for all of the pages. And that's important just so we can keep track of each one of our programs. And if you decide to name something different, it's on every sheet. Now, one of the questions you might have is, if I only have the van driver on this and maybe the administrative staff, why do I need to put all of these other people on here? This is my own philosophy, and that is, there are many times when you have someone, for example, a case manager or maybe a certified medical assistant, and you may get more money from the organization, let's say HRSA, etc., for your HIV testing. A certified medical assistant can be trained to do counseling and testing or certified just like an HIV counselor and tester. And so it may be that there comes a time when you need to spread the cost for someone like the certified medical assistant across other grants. And so I like to make my worksheets a totality of all of the individuals who work for the organization, so that at any time I can try to spread those costs across all of my different employees. And I don't need to hire a new counselor and tester if I can pay some current staff, maybe give some a bump in their salary with some new money if they've been there a while and they deserve that kind of a raise. So I try to keep all of my costs, all of my cost categories, all of my personnel categories, etc., on every worksheet for every program. And that's just one of the things that I found that really helped me. So now you know how to link all of those different cells from one worksheet to the other. So let's go over the rest of the sheet now that you have that. So you can see all my personnel costs, the title, the percent of effort, and again, in this section here on the first page, we're going to want to link that to how much coverage we give that person on each one of the individual programs, and I'll show you how to do that later. Next is the base salary. This is the base salary, and this is what you would look up, for example, on salary.com. So let me show you an example of that very quickly. So if you look at this website, it's called salary.com. You can enter here a job title and your zip code, and it will bring up the list of, and you can see here I've already put in van driver. It will bring up a list of positions, and then you can pick one that most closely is related to the job that you're thinking about. So the one that I picked actually is for delivery of goods, services, and personnel from one, or persons from one location to another. So a van driver that would be driving our HIV clients for my organization to their medical appointments, etc., would fit into this job description. And here you can see that if you paid them the annual median salary, it would be $31,667 for our area, so in the Washington, D.C. zip code that I put in. Then you've got the higher range up to 90% and the lower range down to 10%. So looking back at our transportation budget, you can see that I picked a van driver half-time. Remember, with all of the funding that I have, just for this instance, my agency's budget so far is only the grant money that I have, which is $895,000. So you just have to conceptualize, if I have an organization that's less than $1 million, it's unlikely that most of my employees are going to be full-time unless I can't get an employee unless it's full-time. Other than that, I'm going to have a lot of part-time positions. I'm an agency that's just getting started, and so you're going to see very quickly how the money can go away. So if I have a van driver, and here I've entered $31,667. If I have a van driver for half-time, and remember my budget's $50,000. If I have a van driver for half-time, the base salary is $31,667. The project-based salary actually allows for that employee being there a year and getting a raise, so that's added in so that I don't get surprised by those little costs across all of my employees. And then at 50% time, their project salary is $16,256 plus the fringe benefits, and we talked about this. You can see here that it's 23.7%. It's already in the worksheet. Is $3,853 for a total of $20,109 for a van driver half-time at a salary of $31,000. But remember too that we have other costs that are associated with our van driver. Now, just because he drives the van or she drives the van doesn't mean that that person doesn't have to pay for any space. The only way that you can actually recoup all of your space, remember, is on the full-time equivalents, and that goes right here. And it already, as I said, you can see the long formula for how much it costs for space per FTE. Since that's already calculated, it has to be assumed that everyone pays, even the outreach worker, people who you wouldn't think traditionally, quote unquote, has an office. You have to capture all the FTEs in order to get your reimbursement for the space. So I'm going to click here because once we put in all of our new employees, it hasn't captured them. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom in case I put in any more employees, and I'm going to click enter. And now you can see that the total FTEs, you can disregard this point right here, the total FTEs right now is a half-time person because we have a half-time driver. And you can see already that the space for that person for a year is going to cost me $8,424. And so even though all I've put in so far is a half-time worker and I have $50,000, I'm already at $33,761. So you're going to have to be very careful about the personnel that you pick and what kind of things that you're going to have them, what you're going to have them do. So let's go back to the beginning here, the agency budget again. And you're going to see, because I already linked the rent for all of the sheets, the same cell, and I'm going to show you how to do that as well. It is already calculated for my agency the first amount of money, which is the $8,424. So that's how the base salary gets set. And I'm going to put that salary here for the van driver. Let me look again what it was. It was $31,667. I'm just going to put that there as a reminder to myself. And when you get finished, you'll have all of your salaries here. These salaries that I have here, I'm going to change. Those are the ones that are in the spreadsheet just to start with. So this is the base salary, so that's what we just covered. And then the base annual salary, you saw that as well. And we're actually going to take these off of this sheet because remember, we're building it from our previous sheets. And then the project salary you saw was approximately $16,000 here, and then the fringe and the total budget. So all of that information is going to be added to this master spreadsheet. But I wanted to show you how we would build out that one part of the salary here for the van driver so that we could finish this one section here. So once you have all of the salaries in, and again we'll finish that in just a moment, you have all of the other costs to add in. Now just as a reminder, the sections that you have at the top for all of your worksheets have the formulas, and that's why it's important to make sure that all of these cells match each one of the programs to the agency budget worksheet, right? So 16 as the executive director is cell 16 on all of them, and the base salary is E column on all of the worksheets, and that's why I had you just copy and paste those by clicking on this one, clicking move or copy, and then clicking on create a copy, and then move to the end. So that's why I had you do that, so you'd have the same template, and then to double click on the name here and change it to your program. So that's how we ended up with exactly the same sheets for each one of these. So now you'll see the categories. On line 43, you'll see the budget for the rent. And if I double click on here, you can see that I've made this the sum of this same cell, number 43, you can see it right here, on every worksheet. Case management 14, meaning 2014, through transportation 14. So every worksheet, this line 43, the amount that is here, carries over into this category right here on the main page. So that way, as I add my FTEs, which calculates already my space, I don't have to go back and add all of those up to get my agency budget. And that's going to keep me very, very honest when I do my bookkeeping, because everything is going to be linked together. And that way, if there's a problem like you see here, where it says that there's a problem with, a cell, then I'm going to be able to go back and fix that. This amount right here at the bottom, number 61 on transportation, I'm going to work up until it's $50,000. And then I'm going to go back on all of my programs and do the same thing, right? So that I can make sure that they're all the same. So why don't we stay on this page for just a second and let me build out some of this program very quickly. And then I'm going to end this video and open a new video so they don't get so long that it takes them too long to upload. So transportation, what else would I need for transportation? Well, there are several things that you can see at the bottom that are standard for all of them. And some of the assumption, you can't have more than 10% for supplies, etc. So make sure that you pay specific attention to that. So I'm going to look here and think, for my transportation program, I need a driver, I need a van, I need gas, and I also need insurance. So those would be some of the main costs that I would have, right? So I'm looking here at the categories that I have, and I'm thinking I probably need to add some other categories. Now you're thinking the same thing that I'm thinking, which is, but wait, all of these match all of the other pages. And so what happens if I add a page here, or add a column here, or a row to all of my other pages? Exactly what you think happens, which is you're going to need to go back and you're going to need a new row that says, for example, let's say that I'm going to put in a column for fuel. Okay, so that would be something that would be very specific to this program. So I can go back and I want to pick something above the total cost. So I can pick any of these where I can put it in. And I can, let's say that I'm going to put it right here. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a new row. So that's going to be my new 56. And I'm going to put in fuel. Now, if you're smart, what you'll do is the same thing that I did with the personnel on the first page. On the agency budget, take a look before you copy all of your other pages, right? Because right now you don't have anything in any of your pages. You've not done anything so far except name them. So you could go back and add, like I did right here under 55. You could go back and insert, oh, that's not what I want to do. Put on 56, sorry. And insert and put in fuel. And then you could insert and put in insurance in the right column. And you could go in, and what else did I have? So I have fuel, I have insurance, I have my van driver, and I have my van itself. And for us, we're going to do van rental. Now you can see I have equipment maintenance here at the top. I'm going to use that category in my transportation program. I'm actually going to use that as a place to put for oil and regular equipment maintenance. Of course, that can be for any kind of equipment that you have, including printing machines, etc. Because printing up here is actual printing of paper that you would send out to be printed, not for rental, etc. That would be down here, and you can again look at the slides set first if you didn't already. So the smartest thing to do when you're starting out is to come back to your master sheet again, right? And think about all of your programs. Think about all of the programs that you have and what you're going to want to include. So I'm going to fix all of my worksheets, something that you won't have to do if you're working by doing your first one and then going through. And then I'll come back and we'll have a discussion about where you go from there.